The Respiratory Health Association is a proud supporter of the Whitney Reynolds Show, raising funds and awareness for lung disease research and programs. Additional support by Reach Out Community Center. Reach out and help one child at a time. Temple Grandin, diagnosed with autism as a child, didn't let that stand in the way of her dreams. She earned a PhD and is also a well-known author and speaker with a 2010 HBO movie telling her inspiring story. Faced with many hurdles, she's a true overcomer.
You gotta get the kid out there doing things. One of the things that also helped, my mother had a very good sense of how much to stretch.
So we've talked now to the parents of pushing their kids. What about the child that might have a disability? What would you say to them?
You need to figure out what the child can do.
You're watching The Whitney Reynolds Show. Abbey Curran was the first woman with a disability to compete for Miss USA. Abbey was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 2, but didn't let that stop her. She went on to compete and was crowned Miss Iowa in 2008. Welcome to the show, Abbey. It's nice to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is such a powerful story that you have because today's topic is unstoppable, and you are really a testimony of that.
Well, thanks. I mean, I just try to live each day the best that I can, and I don't even like to think about disabilities, so I just put that behind me.
Let's go back to when you were 2 years old. A lot of us don't remember our childhood that vividly at 2, but do you remember being any different from kids?
I do remember being different. I was so mad because I used to have to leave having fun at my house. We lived on a farm, so I'd have ponies and chickens and ducks, and I'd have to leave and go to physical therapy. And I was so mad because this lady just wants to move my legs around, and I have to be good, and I'm not supposed to talk. And I was so mad, and then my parents would leave me, so I would be very upset, and I hated physical therapy.
So you had to go to physical therapy as a child. Did any of the kids ever make fun of you?
Well, I think I was blessed in the fact that I went to a very small Catholic school. So the people I went to kindergarten with were the people I graduated 8th grade with. And then, we went to public school and high school, so that was a different story. But I'd get made fun of just very minimal, and then everyone kind of became my friend. The worst were my teachers, who were actually treating me differently and saying, we're going to play baseball in gym class. Everyone close your eyes and turn around while Abbey bats. And I remember my little friends would be like, no, she can run, I'll help her. So I was so happy that I had such a great group of kids to go to school with.
That is wonderful. Sometimes, you don't always hear that with kids. And so it sounds like you grew up in just a great town.
Yeah.
So at 2, you get diagnosed. What were some of your symptoms, or how did your parents know that something was wrong?
Well, I just wasn't walking by myself. So, I kind of still am guilty of doing that today. I use things to hold on to. It's much easier. I can walk in 6-inch heels as long as I'm holding on to something, so why not just utilize whatever's around me? But I was just not walking by myself. So I guess they took me to the doctor, an orthopedic surgeon, found out that I had cerebral palsy and, ended up with leg braces, but it really didn't affect my life that greatly.
So we told everyone earlier that you were the first woman to compete with a disability in Miss USA, which is huge. What was it like? You won Miss Iowa.
I just, again, was out to prove people wrong. And I get this flyer when I'm at college in Iowa for the Miss Iowa USA pageant, and it's got Donald Trump's picture on it. So it was kind of just very tempting. And then I thought, at least if I compete, I can tell my kids one day that I competed in Miss Iowa USA. So I signed up, and, a lot of people were like, are you still doing this? I can't believe it. You're crazy. One of my friends stopped talking to me when I signed up for Miss Iowa USA. And, everyone there was beautiful. They all look like Barbie. And then there's me, who's just a mess. And what the heck are fake eyelashes? Those don't even exist in my little farm town. And spray tans? But somehow I survived, and somehow I won. So I was so excited, and it was just such a surreal experience for me.
What is it with your mentality? Because I'm sure our viewers at home, everybody has challenges, but what is it that gets you through them?
I think that, nobody wants to be friends with someone who's home and sad and crying, and life is not fun. So I can just, push all my challenges behind me and pursue my dreams and, have friends and have experiences, or I can sit home and cry about it. And I'm sure there are moments where I think all of us probably get frustrated and sometimes it just feels better to cry. But 2 minutes after that, we can pursue life and go on to the next dream or adventure or experience.
So for people at home, what would you tell them just to stay positive?
Well, I was always taught that accomplishment begins with 2 words, I'll try. And we never know unless we try. So I figure, what the heck, we might as well try.
So then you go to compete in Miss USA, but after all this was done, you decided to start Miss You Can Do It. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I originally started Miss You Can Do It in 2004 when I competed in my first pageant. I went to school with a girl with cerebral palsy who had severe CP. And she was in a wheelchair, and she said she always wanted to compete in the pageant, but her parents said no because everyone would make fun of her. And that kind of devastated me because my parents, on the other hand, were like, if you sign up for this pageant, you aren't quitting, Abbey Curran. You can't get out of it once you sign this paper. So I wanted her to have the same experience. And I thought, what a horrible community if a girl with a challenge competes in a pageant and everyone in the grandstand laughs at her. I don't think that, I give us more credit than that.
Right.
So I started Miss You Can Do It. It was very small, 10 contestants, and this girl was one of them, and she actually got first runner-up. So I was really excited for her.
Oh, wow. Well, I want to look at a clip right now about some of the contestants currently.
I want everybody to see me for who I am, and all my friends do see that. Mama.
Yeah. She said she's walking by herself.
You are. That was great.
Whoa.
When I was in high school, there was a girl who had severe cerebral palsy, and she told me the story about how she never got a chance to enter a beauty pageant because her mom wouldn't let her because people would make fun of her, which just, especially for me, gets to you, and thought, that's ridiculous. So I hope even by just interacting with the other girls and realizing, well, it's not just them. I know at college I'm one of the only people who have a disability, and so you always think it's just you. No one else understands, and you're here, and I don't know if you realize, but there's 38 other girls who understand what I get. And so I hope that, even just watching someone else tie their shoes, they'll try it, or realize, so-and-so did it, so maybe I can do it too.
That footage came from the HBO documentary film, Miss You Can Do It, which you were featured in, and so was your pageant.
Yeah, we were so excited. Once that aired just last summer, we got so many entries and the pageant grew so much. We're actually on Ticketmaster right now, which is so exciting for us.
That is incredible. So take people back to Miss You Can Do It, the starting days.
Oh man, we had just very few contestants. The dads were their escorts. We decorated the day of. It was very small, but again, we wanted it just to be special for the girls. And now we have waiting lists, and as of right now, we have 80 girls signed up from 15 states and 2 countries coming to compete in our 2014 pageant. So we're really excited.
That is so exciting. So these girls come, is it a full weekend?
Pretty much. They arrive on Friday afternoon, they have rehearsal Friday night, and then Saturday is an all day. And this year, their Saturday surprise is at an actual castle. So there's going to be pony rides, and there's going to be like Princess Anna and Snow White and Cinderella, and they have so many amazing things in store for them.
So the mission behind Miss You Can Do It is really what you live out. You can do it.
Exactly. I think that a lot of girls and their parents think that they can't do things. And when I competed in pageants, the thing I dreaded the most was an opening number. But now, surprisingly, my girls have an opening number because it's not about, saying that you can't do something. I think we're all pretty quick to say, oh, I can't do that. And it's not about that. It's about trying. Can you do anything? Can you move your arms? The point is not giving up just because things are complicated.
Do you share your story with the girls every year?
I think a majority of the girls know my story, but, I try not to because I try to just, it's all about them, not me. But a lot of people bring it up, and then I do. And, we're all scared. We all have fears. And the bottom line is that we never know unless we try. So I pursue them to get past those fears and live their dreams.
So you bring judges in for this. Mm-hmm. Tell us about how the whole process works.
Oh goodness, I make it very intimidating for my girls, especially my 18 to 25 age group. They all go through an interview process with a panel of 9 judges. In the past, we've had, Miss USA. We've had this year. We're really excited. We have a Disney star, Sierra McCormick, coming. Really excited about that. But I bring in the people that have touched my life, and then I have to bring in the intimidators, just to give the girls the real pageant experience. And immediately their moms say, she can't sit in an interview by herself, she's never done this. But surprisingly, they all go through a 3-minute private interview, and they all survive, and they all come out smiling.
Do you feel like they learned something in that process of going into the interview?
I think a lot of girls, especially the older ones with possibly more severe disabilities, are so sheltered with their parents. They rely on their parents for everything, and they're never given the opportunity to stand up and speak for themselves. And at the pageant, that's what it's about, that you might need a lot of help, but you don't need as much help as you think you do, and you can go in here and you can conquer this interview with or without your mom.
So in that interview, for 3 to 5 minutes, what kind of questions do you ask?
I'm not super hard on them. I don't ask them about, their political views or anything like that. They submit a resume that says their likes, their dislikes, where they are at in school, their favorite places to travel. So it's mainly from there, and then we throw in some extras like, what is the biggest challenge in your life? But all of them are completely answerable.
So you really customize this for each girl?
Yes.
That is just so amazing. This whole show is just so inspirational for me, because I feel like so many times in life we just can get beat down with the day-to-day things, and it's really unstoppable no matter what your situation is. Pressing forward, I think, is huge. So let's talk about this HBO documentary film. How long did they tape with you?
Oh my gosh, it was close to 4.5 to 5 years.
And they followed you around doing this pageant for that long?
Yes. Well, the first couple of years, Ron Davis and his film crew came and just followed me around. And then he submitted it to Sundance Film Festival. And that's when HBO picked it up, and they wanted it redone. So he had to come back. And I guess it takes so many years because you follow the contestants, you see if they've won, and then you come back after they've had their year of being queen and crowned the new queen.
It's such a touching documentary. I've watched it, and it's one of those, you feel like you get to know you feel like you get to know the girls, and by the end of it, you're just walking away feeling so empowered by the stories that you heard and kind of what happened on the show. There was a few times when I was on the edge of my seat saying, what's going to happen? Do you have those pageant moms at your pageant? We
actually do have those pageant moms. They'll ask me things about spray tan, and can they get their hair switched from private interview to, the evening portion. And of course, I support all of that. That's fine, but that's not really what it's about. And a lot of it is oblivious to me because I am a mess. And winning Miss Iowa was just literally a miracle. So I don't know about spray tans and getting your hair done because I didn't grow up in that atmosphere. But I definitely support, toddlers and tiaras or non-toddlers and tiaras. Everyone's welcome, and we get a big mixture of both.
That's what's so powerful about Miss You Can Do It. Well, we are so excited to see the pageant this year, and we actually have Ron Davis, the guy we've been talking about a lot, who's the filmmaker behind Miss You Can Do It. We have him joining us for the social sizzle. Let's take a look. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be Skyping in. I'm calling from West Palm Beach, Florida on a very rainy day, as it is down here in Florida in the summer.
Yes. Well, tell us about, we have you on today because of the film Miss You Can Do It. You did the whole documentary on it. And how did you get involved with it?
Well, as a documentary filmmaker, you have to find a topic that is something that's true to your heart, because you're going to be working on it for anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So it's quite difficult to find just the right project. And you don't find it, they find you. And I was reading People magazine and, scrolling through it like I do every week. And there was this article about this dynamic young woman named Abbey Curran, who was the first Miss USA contestant to ever go on with a disability. And it had this beautiful picture of her, and it was a story of her background and, everything that was about her and her moxie. And it was really interesting. But what caught my attention was a little picture in the bottom of the article about Abby that talked about the Miss You Can Do It pageant that she had formed. And there was a picture with 5 or 6 girls, I forget how many exactly, and they were on stage, and there was every different color, every different background, there was every different disability, and they were beaming. And I remember that the hair on my arms actually rose, and I got chills, and I thought, that is my next movie, just from that little picture.
Is this one that you would say has definitely touched your heart more than others?
Absolutely, and that was only my second feature documentary, and it touched my heart and I felt as moved by the topic, by the people, by Abby on the fourth year when we finally finished, as I was on the first day when I read that article. And then over the years when I met the families and I spent so much time with Abby and so much time with her family and at the pageant, and it never went away. It was always there. I knew it was going to be a movie that needed to get made. I knew it was a story that people were going to love to watch. And it inspired me from day one through year 4.
So 4 years working on it, these kids are literally growing up before your eyes. How did that work out?
That was a challenge because when we started, 4 years when you're 7 years old makes a big difference. So on the positive side, it was really wonderful to see that a lot of the girls and most of the girls came back and they were there year after year after year. So it was nice. It was definitely a big family. But it was a challenge as a filmmaker to try to make something cohesive that comes across as one whole weekend when it really is a journey for a lot of these families, and it's a journey that took several years.
So I fell in love with every girl that was spotlighted on the film. Did you have one that kind of stuck out more to you than others?
No, the hard part was picking the girls and having to not keep them out, but having to choose the 8 girls that were going to represent the other 50 and having to make choices of who was not going to be in that film because you fell in love with all the girls. I mean, honestly, there wasn't one there was so many girls behind the scenes and the stories behind that you didn't see in the movie were just as touching and in some cases even more so, but we had to make decisions on which girls could best represent the broad spectrum of disabilities.
TV and movies can really change someone's life. Have you heard that the film has helped some of these families?
I've received tons of letters from people around the country that were, because of this movie, inspired to start their own pageants. And I was fortunate enough to read about one in Fort Lauderdale. Randomly, someone just sent it to me, and people in Fort Lauderdale had no idea who the director was, or where I lived. And I contacted them and offered to be an escort. And so I got a group together and we said we had done the movie and we went down and they had such an inspiring evening for 50 girls that were all special needs in Fort Lauderdale. And we went and it was actually really wonderful to see that it inspired that kind of action, but also to be a part of it, not filming it, to be the escort, to helping the girls have a good time. And there's been some really great reactions to the film. I hope that this show and helps to inspire more people around the country and to get involved and do things. Because I think this film, and not so much this film, but what Abby did in this pageant really showed that you can make a huge difference in people's lives locally. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be huge. And when you see the film and you see the girls, you realize that it's just a little bit of kindness can go such a long way.
Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me.
It is now time for the viewer's voice, where we take it to the streets and ask the viewers to weigh in. Today's question is it important to push children and expand their boundaries?
Well, it's always good to challenge a kid, a young person, but to do it in a way where they feel unsafe or uncertain is probably not the best mode, as long as they have an interest or a passion in learning what they are and they have a group of peers around them to support them.
Totally. Otherwise, how are you going to grow? And if you don't make yourself uncomfortable, you're not going to be able to discover new things, create new opinions, all that jazz.
Yes, I do. I have been a teacher, and I do think that is important. I think within their limits. I don't think you should go too far too fast, but definitely that's how we learn.
Yes, I think it is. They don't know that they need to expand, but they do need to, and especially trying new foods and new activities. I think it's good.
Abby, you've been with us all day, and what started out as a dream has now become your reality. Today's show is unstoppable, and you are living that out in your own life and really telling girls across the nation that they can do it as well. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. Your story is just an inspiration, and so is your pageant for all these girls.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm sure the girls will be so excited about the pageant this year, and maybe they'll get an opportunity to meet you sometime.
I would love that. I want to reiterate, though, to everyone at home, what it is that keeps you going.
Well, I was always taught accomplishment begins with 2 words, I'll try, and I just put that at the back of my mind every day and figure, why not just give it a try?
You are a true example of you can do it. Thank you so much, Abby. For more information on today's show, go to whitneyreynolds.com.
Award in Junior Miss, number 19, Lila Wagner. Best Interview Award, number 21, Natasha Nimra. Best Casual Award in Junior Miss, number 17, Ashley Riddell. Best On-Stage Answer Award in Junior Miss, number 16, Quincy McIntyre.
It's all about overcoming obstacles, and you are a living example of that.
Well, when I was a little kid and I was 3.5 years old, I had no speech. I can't emphasize enough the importance of early educational intervention. Another thing is, autism is a big spectrum. One end of the spectrum, you got half of Silicon Valley. You got lots of creative people out in Hollywood. Lots of people that are going to fix the electric wires when they all fall down in the next ice storm. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got really severe autism, and they remain nonverbal with very, very severe handicaps. I can't emphasize enough developing the kids' strengths. My ability in art was always encouraged. Art became the basis of my career on designing things. You gotta build on the strengths. There's too much emphasis on the deficits and not enough emphasis on the strengths that can be made into careers.
So for parents at home that might have a child with a disability, would you say protect them, don't let them go out and see the world, or would you tell them, no, you gotta show them that they can still do it?
You gotta get the kid out there doing things. One of the things that also helped, my mother had a very good sense of how much to stretch me. Also in the 50s, kids were taught social skills, shaking hands, saying please and thank you, turn taking in conversation and games. And I'm seeing too many kids today overprotected, haven't been taught how to shake hands, haven't been taught how to order food in restaurants. You see, there's some social circuits that aren't hooked up. So it's even more important with the kids on the autism spectrum to teach them these skills, and I'm seeing that not being done.
So in a couple of interviews, I have seen that you had a professor that really pushed you outside of your box.
Well, that was my science teacher in high school, and he really was a NASA space scientist, and he got me interested in interesting things. This brings up another important thing. You got to show students interesting things to get them interested in interesting things. I'm very concerned about the schools that are taking out art, music, the school play, woodworking, welding, all of these things also can be great careers. How could a child find out that he likes theater if he never gets a chance to be in a play? Or maybe like a skilled trade. And many schools have shut down their auto shop. I think that's really wrong because we have a huge shortage right now in skilled trades such as auto mechanic and utility worker to fix broken wires.
So we've talked now to the parents of pushing their kids. What about the child that might have a disability? What would you say to them?
You need to figure out what the child can do. Recently I just talked to a guy that's in a wheelchair who takes beautiful flower photography. I said, you need to start a business doing flower photography. I mean, obviously he's not going to climb Mount Everest in a wheelchair. You've got to be sensible. But we need to be looking at what the person can do. Again, when does geeks and nerds become mild autism? I can think of kids I grew up with that be labeled autistic today. Kids I grew up with that now own businesses. And when I go out into the meatpacking plant world, I know 3 people that own metal fabrication companies that definitely would be on the mild end of the spectrum today, and they were saved by that welding class.
Well, what a child can do, and that is the story of today's show. Temple Grandin, thanks for coming on today, and you are a true inspiration to everyone else.
The Respiratory Health Association is a proud supporter of the Whitney Reynolds Show, raising funds and awareness for lung disease research and programs. Additional support by Reach Out Community Center. Reach out and help one child at a time.